you will please stand for our invocation, which will be led by Mr. Dunn, and then our pledges of allegiance, which will be led by Mr. Reinhardt.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for today, Lord. It's been a good day. Thank you for the celebration, the official ribbon cutting of our new facility across the street. Father, as we continue tonight to recognize folks that have done great and wonderful things and have given to the community. Father, we thank you for our visitors and just pray that afterwards that they have a safe trip home. Father, now be with us tonight as we do the business of the district. Just pray that we would be directed by you on the decisions and that we bring honor and glory to your name with everything that's done tonight. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I'd like to ask our board to begin making its way to the front as we transition into our awards, achievements, and recognitions time. I will now turn the presentation over to Mrs. Carla Christmas. Or not?
I've got the first.
Oh, it will be Ms. Rebecca Kelly.
No, you go ahead.
I'm going to stand right here. You go All right, good evening. It is my pleasure to conduct our first recognition of the evening. Each year, the Texas Department of Agriculture presents districts with a challenge to serve locally grown items to students. The Best of Bunch award winners meet the highest standards of the Farm Fresh Challenge and have showcased an extraordinary commitment to Texas agriculture. For the 8th consecutive year, our Child Nutrition Department has accepted this challenge and earned the distinction of Best of the Bunch. This is an esteemed level of achievement that less than 10% of the districts in the state of Texas receive. The Texas Agriculture Commissioner announced that our Child Nutrition team has successfully completed the Fall 2022 Farm Fresh Challenge. Throughout October, the students at our schools ate local foods, learned about Texas agriculture. The challenge is part of the Commissioner's Farm Fresh initiative that is building a healthier generation by connecting farmers and ranchers with school nutrition programs. In addition to serving healthy and balanced meals every day, our team makes offering agriculture education and serving Texas food top priorities during this challenge. These efforts help strengthen local economies while recognizing the efforts of farmers and ranchers in the Lone Star State. Tonight, we'd like to recognize our Child Nutrition Department for their Best of Bunch distinction and their dedication to our students every day. Here tonight to accept this recognition is our Director of Child Nutrition, Amy Anderson, and Lisa Mitchell, our Assistant Director and Dietitian. Thank you both, ladies, for your leadership and your expertise and commitment to menuing local, fresh products for the BISD students.
Amber's back again.
Good evening. Brazosport ISD has hosted its 7th year of the BISD Community Ambassadors Group. The program is designed for the purpose of giving community and business partners an in-depth look in our district and its operations. Each selected participant engaged in 4 learning sessions by attending 3-hour lunch sessions that were held at various locations throughout our district. Each session provided participants learning opportunities regarding Brazosport ISD and various departments and operations. The goal of the program
is to encourage and create community ambassadors to share the many outstanding learning experiences and learning opportunities throughout the Brazosport area. BISD would like to thank the following participants for going the extra mile to learn more about our district and to become a BISD ambassador. This year's ambassadors class included, and as I call your name, please come to the front. Ms. Amy Condon, Teresa Sadie, Ron Damian, Kim Effenberger, Ravonna Gomez, Nicole Hardesty, Jennifer Hill, Katrine Hillary, Chris Kinney, Kristen Matter, Kimberly Mayer, Stephen Mayer, Jasper Paez, Gracie Pequeño, Paul Perkins, Tiffany Phelan, Kayla Velan, Shay Wilcoxon, and Joseph Wright. Along with our two board members, Mr. Jerry Atkins and Joe Lang.
How's it going? Absolutely.
Certificate of completion.
They're gonna make sure I don't say anything. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, 1 hour a month. Yeah, yours was pretty good. It's the same paper that we were here. Be careful.
Good evening, school board and guests. This year, Brazosport ISD adopted the phrase #BeConnected. We were charged with making connections with our staff, with our students, with our families, and our communities. We know that by being connected with our community, our schools, and ultimately our students benefit. The Lions Club International is home to 1.4 million members who are dedicated to serving their communities and the world. This club has been in our community for many years and has served our families in many ways. They help with vision screenings and help to provide classes for students that are not able to afford them. Additionally, behind the scenes, they support many causes and help to fund table sponsorships and gifts for community events. Ron Martin, owner of Grapevine Gifts and president of the Brazosport Breakfast Lions Club chapter, has sponsored Madge Griffith Elementary over the last several years to help them with attendance incentives. As you are aware, COVID-19 impacted many of our families and negatively affected our attendance. We know that it is very difficult for students to learn if they aren't in school. This year, Ron Martin reached out to me asking how they could do more. He wanted to help all of our schools with attendance and work to get as many sponsorships as possible. He rallied the troops and recruited several other Lions Club chapters to sponsor Velasco, Freeport Elementary, Ney Pre-K, Roberts, Griffith, and T.W. Ogg Elementary, which all struggled with attendance, as previously mentioned. Today, I would like to recognize these Lions Club representatives with the #BeConnected Award. If you'll come forward when I call your name. Ron Martin, owner of Grapevine Gifts and president of the Breakfast Lions Club. Tom Pearson, President of the Freeport Coast Lions Club, and any other Freeport Coast Lions Club members that are here, if they would please come. Billy Gray with the Lake Jackson Evening Lions Club. If you would come, or any other representatives from the Lake Jackson Evening Club. Nancy Gray with the Brazosport Noon Lions Club, and any other Lions Club members that are here in attendance with us tonight. Mr. Chief, also come up. Thank you for your generous donations to provide attendance incentives to our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Which one?
Noon.
The noon?
I'm the noon.
What do you got?
Brazosport Noon.
Brazosport Noon, breakfast, Freeport Lions Club, and evening.
It's really Lake Jackson without the evening.
Oh.
We'll take it, though.
Play it proudly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody has it that way. We're gonna get y'all to pick.
Ready, 1, 2.
Thank y'all very much.
All the clubs in the area get together once a quarter.
Okay, moving on to our next award, I would like to recognize Enya Rodriguez of TWOG for being recognized as the Elementary Essential Educator of the Month for February. If you'll please come forward. This is Enya's first year in Brazosport ISD. She was formerly a kindergarten bilingual teacher and accepted the 3rd grade bilingual teaching position at TWOG this year. As you can imagine, being self-contained in 3rd grade means teaching all content, 2-star tests, and of course, bilingual 2 languages. Her principal, Mrs. Pearson, shared that she happily took on math, reading, science, and social studies, and she does it with a smile. Her students shared that Ms. Rodriguez is simply the best. She helps them when they get something wrong, and they also mentioned that they wouldn't have learned fractions without the help of Ms. Rodriguez. In a time of teacher shortage, specifically in hard-to-find positions like bilingual, we are thankful that Mrs. Rodriguez agreed to be self-contained and teach all of the content for her bilingual students. We are thankful for Enya's dedication to BISD and appreciate her setting the standard for educational excellence. Congratulations, Mrs. Rodriguez.
Put your arm around your mom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got one more recognition this evening, and Ms. Rhodes, even though most of our recipients have left, we will cheer loud and proud for you tonight. So Ms. Rhodes, if you want to make your way up to the front, we'd like to congratulate our February Essential Educator, Ms. Jessica Rhodes from Lighthouse Learning Center. Ms. Rhodes works with students from across the district at LLC and was nominated by their administration for her strong instructional practices, dedication to her students, and her positive Her students were so excited to cheer Ms. Rhodes on, it's evident that she dedicates herself to building positive relationships with students in this non-traditional setting. The Lighthouse is a unique learning environment, and we appreciate their staff greatly. Ms. Rhodes is a great example of the dedication and skills that make our district great. Thank you for all you do, Mrs. Rhodes. It's a great day to let your light shine.
Thank you very much.
At this time, in accordance with BED local, the board will provide an audience with individuals who have signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Tonight, we do not have any ones who have signed up, so we'll move to our next item. The next thing that we have is public hearing. Mr. Ron Redden. Mr. Redden, we're to conduct a public hearing to discuss Brazosport ISD 2022 Texas Academic Performance Report. State law provides that a public meeting be held to discuss this topic, and the public hearing is audience participation is invited at the conclusion of this presentation. Mr. Ron Redden.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and in accordance with Board Policy AIB Legal and requirements under Texas Education Code, Chapter 39.306, and in alignment with District Goals 1, 2, and 4, it's my pleasure this evening to conduct a public hearing on the 2022 Brazosport ISD Annual Performance Report. Texas Education Code, Chapter 39.306 requires each public school district's Board of Trustees to publish an annual report that includes the Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPER, information on the performance of district graduates in their first year of college in a Texas public 2- or 4-year institute of higher education, a school safety report, the PEAN's actual financial report, current campus performance objectives with progress, the district's accreditation status, district and campus distinctions, the special education discrimination status, and progress toward meeting the board's House Bill 3 literacy, numeracy, and CCMR goals. The Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPER as it is commonly called, includes sections on STAR performance, attendance, graduation, and dropout rates, college, career, and military readiness, and student and staff demographics. Linked at the end of the staff section is the PEAN's actual financial report of district expenditures from the 2020-2021 school year. There it goes. The first section of the TAPER is student performance. In the spring of 2022, BISD students outperformed the state average for STAR exams in all performance levels on 9 assessments and in overall mathematics. Additionally, the district outperformed the state at approaches grade level in 5th grade math and on the biology end of course exam. The next two sections of the TAPER include rates for attendance, graduation, and dropouts, as well as college, career, and military readiness reports. Each of these are lagging indicator reports, meaning that the data used was from the 2020-2021 school year. As you can see on this line graph, district attendance for a full, uninterrupted year remained above 94%. The spike you see in 2020 was the result of the online format implemented in March of 2020, when the district was forced to close schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These line graphs present a 7-year longitudinal look at both dropout and graduation rates. Not surprisingly, we experienced a spike in the dropout rate in 2021 as some of our most at-risk students did not return to school in the fall of 2020 following the COVID shutdown. The graduation rate for 2021 was only 0.1% lower than that of 2020. BISD graduation rates have climbed steadily since 2018, and the 2021 rate exceeded that of the pre-COVID year of 2019. Brazosport ISD continues to demonstrate exemplary performance in the area of CCMR. In fact, 2021 graduates outperformed the state and the region in college, career, and military readiness. There are 27 programs of study available to BISD students ranging from accounting and financial services to welding. We're grateful to our communities for supporting the construction of a world-class CTE center at Brazoswood High School and a soon-to-be world-class center at Brazosport High School. We're also grateful to our business partners who have donated more than $5.3 million to our CTE Major Giving campaign. 2021 Brazosport ISD graduates had the opportunity to earn up to 30 industry-based certifications from 12 CTE career pathways. As a result, 41.3% of graduates earned at least one IBC, compared to just 18.4% of graduates across the entire state and 16.8% across the region. David, I may need your assistance with advancing it. Thank you. The 2022 report on high school graduates enrollment and academic performance in Texas public higher education features the grade point average earned by the 2019-2020 high school graduates who attended public 4-year and 2-year higher education in Texas during fiscal year 2021. 2 years ago, 420 members of the class of 2020, or 44%, started on the path to higher education. Of those students, 376 started down that path in Texas public 2- and 4-year institutions. 77% of the students who attended a 4-year public institution in Texas had a GPA of 2.5 or better. The final section of the taper, student and staff information, is based on data from the 2021-2022 school year. As you can see on this trend line, enrollment increased slightly last year, and that trend is continuing this year. Enrollment this year is up by 167 students over the last year and by 194 since 2021. District student demographics are also comparable to state student demographics. Student participation in all major BISD programs reflect the diversity of our district. The percentage of economically disadvantaged students increased by 2% in 2022, from 69.7% to 71.7%. The district percentage exceeded that of the state by more than 10%. The number of emergent bilingual students began a post-pandemic climb in 2022 that is continuing into this year. Emergent bilingual enrollment is almost equal to pre-pandemic levels. The percentage of students identified as receiving services through special education continues to grow. We need to go back one, David. I think it woke up and started skipping. There we are. The percentage of students identified as receiving services through special education continues to grow. The state rate for 2022 was 11.6%, while the BISD rate was 13.2%. BISD exceeded the 2022 state rate for the identification of gifted and talented students with an identification rate of 10.9% compared to the state rate of 8%. The district GT rate for this year has increased by another 0.4%. The number of teachers declined in 2022, and as a result, the district student-to-teacher ratio increased. Nevertheless, the ratio remained below the state ratio. While the number of teachers was lower in 2022, the count for 2023 will be 874, which is nearly equal to the 2021 count. BISD teachers continue to be among the highest paid in the state thanks to the generous support of our Board of Trustees. BISD continues to pay teachers above the state average. The information on this slide is based strictly on salaries. When the various stipends we offer are factored in, the average salary is much higher. Even though teacher turnover rates increased across the state, BISD's increase was only 2.2% compared to the state's 3.4%. Even with that increase, BISD teacher turnover rates remained below 2017 levels, as well as the pandemic year of 2020. Texas statute requires every district to publish a report on school safety. BISD publishes this report on our website under required postings. BISD has in place prevention and intervention policies to help prevent violent and criminal offenses from occurring. The district also offers campus-level training of students and staff in violence awareness and prevention, bullying awareness and prevention, and character education. Each BISD campus has a crisis intervention team whose role it is to identify, assess, and implement appropriate measures with individuals whose behavior raises concerns for potential violence. BISD offers campus-level counseling support to the students, and community resources are available for counselors to use when referring students who are in crisis for additional intervention. I apologize for there we go. The district provides a remarkable number of programs and activities to support students in crisis, or with behavioral challenges. Those that you see on this slide are just a few of the 80 different programs and activities that support student safety. The entire list can be viewed on the district website as part of the 2022 School Safety Report. The 2020-2021 PEAMS Actual Financial Report is the final financial report for the 2020-2021 school year and compares district revenues and expenditures to those of the state for the same year. This year, our district once again earned the state's highest financial accountability rating of superior in the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, or FIRST. The next report is on the progress campuses are making toward accomplishing their 2023 Campus Improvement Plan performance objectives. Performance objectives are evaluated at the end of the year, but strategies are evaluated quarterly. Data used for this report came from the second quarter review of the Campus Improvement Plans. 84.1% of Campus Improvement Plan strategies have either been accomplished or considerable progress is being made toward meeting or exceeding their intended outcomes. Next is the district accreditation report. A district receives one of 4 possible accreditation ratings. The top rating is accredited, which Brazosport ISD received again for this year. This year, for the first time, the annual report must include a report on campus distinction designations. This familiar graphic illustrates the number of distinction designations earned by Brazosport ISD schools since the 2013-2014 school year. It also captures the remarkable growth the district has made since 2014, when distinctions were first included in state accountability. This year, the district and campuses received 39 distinctions, which is the most we've ever received. 14 campuses earned a total of 38 distinction designations, and the district earned the post-secondary readiness distinction. The annual report must include the district's special education determination status. The special education determination status is based on the results of the state's Results-Driven Accountability System, or RDA, a report that is issued in the fall. In the RDA system, a program receives one of 4 possible determination levels based on the performance of students served by that program. Determination level 1 means the program met requirements. Determination level 2 means the program needs assistance. Determination level 3 means the program needs intervention, and determination level 4 means the program needs substantial intervention. The determination level for special education this year was needs assistance. This is the result of the disproportionality for special education students assigned to out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, and discipline alternative education placement at the Lighthouse Learning Center, all due to This is an area we have been addressing, and the Texas Education Code noted that improvement in our most recent monitoring phone call. They're seeing the improvement that we're making. The final report, also new for this year, is on the progress the district is making toward accomplishing the House Bill 3 goals set by the Board of Trustees in the summer of 2020. In response to the impacts of COVID-19, those goals were revised last year to extend the target date to 2026. BISD students exceeded all three 2022 performance targets, and they're on track to meet the 2026 final targets. The 2022 Annual Performance Report provides evidence that district initiatives are effective in improving student outcomes. While there remain opportunities for improvement, there can be no doubt that the district is continuing to move in the right direction in our pursuit to graduate each student to be future ready. This concludes the public hearing on the 2022 Annual Performance Report. All of the Annual Performance Report documents can be viewed on the district website. Since this is a public hearing, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions from the board or from the audience.
Any questions from the board? From the audience? Hearing none, then thank you, Mr. Redden.
Thank you.
I will now close the public hearing. At this time, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Are there any items requested to be pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll second.
All right, moved by Mr. Dunn. Seconded by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. That carries. Next item that we have under our agenda is our action items. Public comments will be allowed before a vote is taken on each of the action items. Our first is the instructional calendar for 23-24.
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, Board President Howard, and board members. In accordance with Board Policy EB Legal, it is my pleasure to present the recommended 2023-24 instructional calendar. The process of creating the 2023-24 instructional calendar began in November when the calendar committee was formed and the development of drafts was initiated. Among 15 committee members, there were representatives from Freeport, Clute, Lake Jackson, as well as elementary, intermediate, and high schools. During the development process, these highly qualified professionals focused on the guiding question, what are the best calendar decisions to support quality instruction, including the prioritization of addressing huge learning gaps and balanced semesters. They also viewed the many factors to be considered when creating an instructional calendar as listed on this slide. In addition, the committee prioritized having staff start on a Monday, no sooner than August 7th, students start no sooner than a Wednesday during the week of August 16th, and finishing the school year prior to the end of May. There was also an effort to place student holidays on Fridays when possible and have at least 3 school days in a week during weeks that have holidays. 2 calendar drafts were developed, with each having 171 student days and 16 staff days without students. Staff feedback was collected, and 864 district and campus staff members responded to the survey. 35% are parents of BISD students, and 53% of those who completed the survey are classroom teachers. Of all 864 votes, they were almost evenly split between the 2 options, with just an the comments of each other. There were 1,605 participants. There were 1,154 thoughts exchanged and 17,447 ratings. Based on this data, 56% of participants preferred option A, which aligned with the teachers' preferences for draft A. The three most highly ranked comments were, I like that we have a little more time out before Christmas. I like that they are considering parents' opinions. And I think children and employees should get out earlier in December so they have time to do Christmas activities, do their shopping, and travel. The two drafts, staff survey results, and parent thought exchange input was presented to a 36-member district educational improvement committee consisting of district and campus representatives, as well as parents, community, and business representatives. After discussion, the DEIC voted on which calendar they felt best meets the instructional needs of BISD students. Draft B was the preferred calendar by 58% of DEIC members. The calendar committee then met a final time to review staff and teacher survey results, parent input through thought exchange, and DEIC survey. After much discussion, 75% of the members preferred draft A, and all members voted to move forward with what the majority preferred. For this reason, in alignment with teachers and parent preferences, draft A is being presented to you tonight as next year's recommended instructional calendar. Here are the highlights of draft A. Campus staff begin working on August 7th, and school begins for students on August 16th. Winter break is on Monday, December 18th. Staff return on January 2nd to a professional development day, followed by a teacher preparation day, and students return on January 4th. Spring break will be the week of March 11th through 15th at the same time as Brazosport College. And the school year ends for students on Thursday, May 25th, and for campus staff on Friday, May 26th, prior to Memorial Day weekend. This calendar is presented to you as best meeting the instructional needs of students in Brazosport Independent School District. Therefore, it is the recommendation of administration that the board approve the 2023-24 BISD instructional calendar as presented. I would be happy to answer any clarifying questions you have at this time.
Any questions from the board?
It looks like the only difference is whether they get out on the 15th or they get out on the 20th, correct?
Yes.
And then when they come back.
And there was one other minor difference related to the February President's Day. Whether it was placed in February or whether it was moved to January.
Any other questions, comments?
I was just wondering, to approve this, do we need to include draft A or draft B in the motion? It just says, instructional calendar, it doesn't say which one. I'm just asking.
No, she recommended A. They recommended A.
I know that, but.
Yeah, you don't have to add the word A in there somewhere.
It is the recommendation of administration that the board approve draft A as the 2023-24 BISD instructional calendar as presented.
Robin, you're leaving us, so I wanted you to have to do something a little special.
Very nice.
I'll make the motion to approve draft A.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Joe, second by Jerry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Thank you.
Stay there, Dr. I do want to take this opportunity, as Mr. Reinhardt mentioned, Dr. Felton has communicated with us that she is retiring, 35 years in education, all right here in Brazosport ISD. She was an elementary school teacher in Freeport and was an assistant principal and then a principal and then a director. And we just appreciate your service to the district and your professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I,
Go ahead.
I think we should move this process up in the year. I know a lot of people do a lot of planning. I know I'm already planning vacations in September and October with my wife, so I think a lot of people have a lot of different things on their plate. So if we could move this process up to September, October, maybe, it would be nice. I don't know how big a difficult that is, but it would be nice to get this done so that we can have these before at least before the end of the year. Maybe we do it in the December meeting, move it up a month and a half.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Next year's calendar.
We've been pretty consistent. We've been pretty consistent last few
You got a
years.
project for this spring.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah.
The next item that we have on our action item agenda is Westport ISD Board of Trustees. I'm sorry, the class size exceptions for Freeport Elementary School. Mr. Redden.
Yes, sir. In accordance with Board Policy EEB Local, and in alignment with district goal, BISD campuses will be safe and conducive to learning, I'm requesting that the Board of Trustees approve a class size exception for Freeport Elementary School. The district seeks to maintain a 22-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio in grades pre-K through 4. Prior to the approval of the Local Innovation Plan, if a class size ratio exceeded 22-to-1 for 30 days, the district was required to submit a maximum class size exception waiver to TEA. The Local Innovation Plan provision for class size exceptions provides the district with the flexibility to monitor class sizes for a longer period of time before determining to seek an exception from the Board of Trustees. Under the district's innovation, should a class size exceed 22-to-1 for more than 35 days, the Board of Trustees must approve the exception. There are 4 options that can be considered to address class sizes that exceed the 22-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio for more than 35 days. The first option is to hire a teacher. The advantage of hiring a teacher is that it reduces the class size to under the ratio. The disadvantages are having available space for a new classroom, moving students out of a class where they've already built a relationship with their teacher and classmates, and finding another qualified teacher. The second option is to add a certified teacher to the class to create a co-teach environment. The advantages of adding a certified teacher to the class is that it reduces the class size to 12-to-1. The disadvantages include the cost of the teacher along with the fact that not all elementary school classrooms are built to accommodate an all-day co-teach arrangement. The third option is to move a transfer student back to his or her home campus or to another campus in the district. This is a last option since it not only disrupts the learning of the student, but also any siblings he or she has who attend the school on a transfer with them. The fourth option is to add a paraprofessional according to district staffing ratios. This option requires the Board of Trustees to grant a class size exception. The advantage of adding a paraprofessional is that the teacher remains with the students he or she has been with all year, and no movement of transfer students is required. The disadvantage is the cost of adding the paraprofessional position if it doesn't exist, and what to do with the paraprofessional if the class drops back to 22-to-1 or lower. This is not a concern for the classroom for which the exception is being requested tonight, since a paraprofessional is already assigned to the classroom. It is not my night with clicker, guys. There it goes. Freeport Elementary School has one second-grade bilingual education classroom that has exceeded the 22-to-1 ratio for 35 days. As mentioned on the previous slide, a bilingual paraprofessional is already assigned to the classroom and will continue in that assignment for the remainder of the school year. Continuing with the current instructional arrangement is least disruptive to student learning. It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve a class size exception for the Freeport Elementary School second grade bilingual education classroom where enrollment exceeds the 22-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. At this time, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions you or the audience may have.
Any questions from the board?
Looking at the data that was sent out with the board update.
Yes, sir.
Second grade, Freeport Elementary is pretty full. It's got 22. I know there's a lot of movement in and out, but, the other 5 classes, 1, 2, 3, the other 5 classes that have 22, are we in danger of doing this again?
Possibly, but again, they're pretty mobile there, they go up and down. They would have to be there, over 35 days.
Yes.
Possibly.
Well, I mean, there's 5 classes, 22, that's including the 2 bilinguals, which is 22 and 24. I mean, that's good.
It is. It is
But,
good.
you know, that's, and then the other grades seem to be a little less, so. I'm just curious if we're gonna run into this again in a little while. We have a pair in the one class?
Yes, and actually in both bilingual classes, and they have been all year long.
Okay, do we have pairs in the other 5?
I don't know the answer to that.
Unless the campus assigned one of their general purpose parents to their.
And so the enrollment, Freeport Elementary has a 210, appears to be 550.
Yeah, it's increased.
Yes, it's increased significantly this year.
Which is good.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience?
I have a general question. Since we already have a parrot in there, why do we have to even do the exception?
Well, it's one of the last of the options that I pointed out. Yes, it is a para that's in there, but this has to do with the 22-to-1 really attached to the certified teacher. By granting the exception with the para in there, you're saying we're good with this because we know that we're basically at, in this case, a 12-to-1 ratio with the para supporting.
I understand that we're over, but since we already have a parrot in there, aren't we meeting the minimum requirement for going over?
Well, still though, as part of our innovation, it still requires, our innovation plan that we approved last year still requires that the board grant the exception before we can do it.
Okay. I move for approval.
All right, it's been moved by Scott, seconded by Ms. Cuellar. All in
I do have a question. Is there any, I know our apprentices are assigned somewhere, but is that a possibility of putting them down there for a period of time to, even though I know we've got the 2 pairs, but anyway, that's just off the top of my head.
We can absolutely look at some of our apprentices once they become certified and they finish like their clinical experiences, probably in another like 4 weeks or so. We still need some extra support. They would be certified.
Well, I mean, that's
You could
kind of
look
what the whole system is about, so, okay.
Absolutely.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Thank you so much. Our next item on our action item agenda is C, the Brazosport ISD Board of Trustees 88th Legislative Session Advocacy Priorities. Ms. Rebecca.
Good evening. The following presentation is in alignment with our board policy CE. During the 88th Texas Legislative Session, which began January 10th, Brazosport ISD will support legislation that aligns with the district's vision and mission to ensure that BISD is setting the standard for educational excellence and that BISD will graduate each student to be future ready. As a district, we are engaged in advocacy efforts and will maintain relationships with our elected officials to be a resource as they consider legislation that impacts public education. These adopted legislative priorities will serve as a guide to help facilitate conversations with lawmakers and raise greater public awareness about issues at the state level. To accomplish these goals, BISD will support legislative priorities and positions that advocate for the following: an increase to the state's overall investment in our public education students, and in the public education programs, with an increase to the basic allotment, enrollment funding, revisions to special education funding formulas, and adequate funding to provide safe and secure schools. The repeal of the A through F accountability system and the creation of an accountability system that incorporates fair measures of achievement based on state and local standards and reduced testing to those that are required by federal law. Texas workforce retention and development through increased compensation, benefit packages, and new funding for our apprenticeship programs. Opposition to diverting public funds to private schools with no academic or financial accountability or transparency to the state, taxpayers, or local communities, and support school choice and innovations within our Texas public schools. The extension of the expired provisions of the Chapter 313 of the Tax Code to promote economic development in Texas. And lastly, a cost of living adjustment for our TRS retirees. A high quality and well-funded public education system is essential to help every child reach their full potential. When it comes to state spending on education, Texas ranks in the bottom 10 states in a per-student funding and trails the national average by $4,000 per student. The impact of underfunding our public schools is long-lasting and limits our ability to graduate each student to be future-ready. In the next few slides, we will review 4 areas that need to be addressed: the basic allotment, enrollment versus ADA funding, special education funding formulas, and a safety and security funding allotment. The current basic allotment is $6,160 per student, which was increased from $5,140 in 2020. While this was a step in the right direction, the amount is only slightly above what was needed to cover inflation for 2020 and 2021. This amount was not enough to make up for the 4 years prior to House Bill 3, when there was no increase provided, nor is it sufficient to cover current inflationary projections. Over the last 3 years, our state has seen double-digit inflation, placing a tremendous amount of pressure on public schools to fund teacher and staff salaries, instructional supplies and materials, health insurance, energy costs, and property insurance, especially for districts like Brazosport ISD that are along the coast. As costs continue to rise, districts are being forced to cut important programs in order to stay ahead of fiscal cliffs. The basic allotment should include an inflationary adjustment tied to the Inflationary Consumer Price Index. The chart on the right was published by Moat Casey and Associates, and had House Bill 3 included such an index, the basic allotment today would have been adjusted to be at $6,828, currently at $6,160. For Brazosport ISD, that would have equated to $7.5 million in additional funding for this school year. Had the index just been tied to a 10-year average of inflation, the basic allotment would be at $6,572, which would be $4.6 million more for Brazosport ISD in this budget year. Instead, House Bill 3 included the basic allotment to remain an arbitrary number, completely void of any policy rationale or measured cost. It is not adequate to meet the educational needs of students. Therefore, Brazosport ISD supports the creation of an automatic annual adjustment to the basic allotment, the per-student funding amount, which is used to address the inflationary and growing needs of our students. Brazosport ISD supports funding formulas to be based on an enrollment versus an average daily attendance. Texas is only one of 6 states that fund public schools based on average daily attendance. School districts plan and budget based on the number of students enrolled. Every student must be assigned a campus, a teacher, and a seat in a classroom. We must be prepared to educate every child every school day, even if the child is absent for the day. If a student misses 9 school days on a 187 school year calendar, the district loses 5% of funding that a student with perfect attendance would have generated. We still pay the teacher their full salary, even if a student does not have perfect attendance. Funding based on enrollment would provide a more appropriate level of funding for districts. There are several methods that could be considered for schools to be funded based on enrollment: average daily membership, a single day count, multiple count day, or even an enrollment period. The state has sufficient funding that should be allocated through appropriations to fund districts for full enrollment. Attendance can be incorporated into the accountability system. It does not belong in the funding formulas. Brazosport ISD supports funding formulas based on enrollment versus average daily attendance. Current funding formulas for special education services are based on formulas that were set decades ago based on how much time a student spends in a particular classroom setting. Brazosport ISD supports revisions to the current formulas that focus on student need rather than the amount of time spent in a particular classroom setting. The majority of students with disabilities are spending most of their day in a regular classroom setting versus segregated into classroom settings based on their disability. Providing inclusive opportunities aligned with evidence-based best practices requires additional supports, and the outdated funding formulas do not adequately fund the true cost of educating students with disabilities in today's learning environments. The U.S. Department of Education did an investigation and concluded that Texas has violated federal laws by failing to ensure students with disabilities were properly evaluated and provided an adequate public education. The impact of this is that TEA had to write a corrective action plan and increase the evaluation services, which were not currently factored into the funding formulas. In Brazosport ISD for fiscal year 2021, the current special education funding formula generated $7.5 million in revenue. The associated cost of providing individualized services to students with disabilities was $12.8 million. That is a $5.3 million gap in funding for Brazosport ISD. The chart on the left was also published by Moat Casey, and at the state level, that gap totaled over $1.8 billion, with federal funds making up 13% of that gap. Therefore, Brazosport ISD supports revisions to the special education funding formulas that focus on student needs rather than the amount of time spent in a particular classroom setting by funding programs based on services provided to ensure provisions of a free, appropriate public education for all students. Every student needs a safe and healthy educational environment that is conducive to learning in order to meet their full academic potential. Brazosport ISD Board of Trustees have prioritized the health, safety, and security of our students and staff for years with no to little support from the state. Senate Bill 11 from the 86th legislative session did create an annual school safety allotment to help fund equipment, programs, and trainings related to school safety and security. Allocating a per student based on ADA funding allotment of $9.72 generated $110,000 for Brazosport ISD. This allotment is far from adequate funding for the actual cost of providing safe and secure schools and should have a minimum floor or an allotment per campus. In response to the tragic Uvalde incident, the state has recently released some state grants to support infrastructure, which is certainly appreciated, but it fails to address it as an ongoing need. Ongoing safety is a campus issue that should be funded on a per-campus level to provide school safety personnel on every campus. Brazosport ISD supports an allotment that is ongoing, adequate, and flexible to meet the needs of local school districts. Brazosport ISD currently spends $1.8 million annually from our operating budget to fund our police department, campus safety specialists, and other ongoing measures to ensure the safety and security of our students and staff. Presented here are a few options that the Equity Center organization has provided with the projections for each, for the projections that it would bring to Brazosport ISD based on each scenario. A $100 per ADA or $150 per ADA would generate between $1 and $1.5 million, with a state cost of $461 to $692 million, which is inadequate to cover our current cost of funding safety and security, and it's still based on the number of students rather than being based on a campus allotment. So an allotment that is campus-based of $100,000 per campus with some administrative costs would be a more adequate way to fund safety and security for schools, and that allotment would generate between $2.1 and $2.3 million, which would be adequate to cover our current costs with room to add additional layers of security. Therefore, Brazosport ISD supports additional and ongoing state funding for school safety initiatives with the flexibility and how districts utilize these funds to meet the needs of local schools and communities. Brazosport ISD supports the repeal of the A through F accountability system. Texas public schools should be held to an appropriate standard of quality through a comprehensive assessment and accountability system that incorporates fair measures of achievement based on state and local standards. The current state accountability system is too narrowly focused on a single measure, the STAR test. Brazosport ISD supports an accountability system that evaluates school success more comprehensively rather than one test on one day. Public schools do so much more than prepare students for a single test. In addition to delivering high-quality core curriculum, public schools offer co-curricular and extracurricular programs that connect students to their schools. Beyond academics, schools provide family and student engagement and address health and safety issues. The list of what we do goes on, and it's absurd to be measured and rated on an A through F accountability system which ignores all the other indicators of school quality that are valued by our local community. Brazosport ISD supports the repeal of the A through F accountability system and the creation of an accountability system that incorporates fair measures of achievement based on state and local standards, and to reduce testing to those that are required by federal law. Teacher retention continues to be a focus across the state for school districts. The number of educators leaving the field is significantly larger than those entering the field from university and alternative certification programs. The result has created a teacher workforce shortage and unfortunately leaves thousands of students across the state in classrooms each day without a certified teacher. A study from the Texas Teacher Tipping Point in 2022 found that nearly half of teachers either left the education field or moved to different roles within the education field. Brazosport ISD will continue efforts to retain our quality teachers while at the same time focusing on recruiting new teachers and attracting future teachers into our apprenticeship programs. In that same study, 41% of Texas teachers hold a second job outside of their school out of financial necessity, with over 77% of teachers surveyed having seriously considered leaving. Brazosport ISD supports teacher retention through increased compensation and benefit packages, adequate administrative support, and sustainable work environments. Brazosport ISD is setting the standard and developing a sustainable pipeline of high-quality teachers to meet our future staffing needs. Brazosport ISD is proud to have the first K-12 Texas Registered Apprenticeship Program approved by the Department of Labor. Our program provides equity and access to people in our community that have a passion for teaching. Designed to meet the candidate where they are on their journey to become a teacher, our program provides an opportunity to earn a livable wage while going to college to complete their degree with a teacher certification, and also upskilling the future teacher along the way through strategic on-the-job training and mentor feedback. Our program provides the wraparound services that are needed to our apprentices to overcome real-life barriers to ensure successful completion, and our program is producing high qualified and trained teachers to meet our workforce needs of the future. Tri-agency collaboration between the Texas Education Agency, the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board, and the Texas Workforce Commission, and funding allocations are going to be necessary to ensure that we have support for a multi-year apprenticeship program in the field of education that can be sustained through employer partnerships to leverage resources to expand the talent pipeline for high-quality teachers, all of which will build upon the current state strategies that we have seen the state try to implement to address teacher quality. Brazosport ISD supports the creation of a funding allotment to develop a pipeline of highly qualified teachers to meet the employer-driven workforce needs of the future. Public dollars must remain in public schools. Students, parents, communities, and businesses rely on public schools to provide a high-quality education and ensure a bright future for Texas. School vouchers, more recently being labeled as education savings accounts or parent choice bills, all divert public monies to private schools. Private schools do not provide the same level of academic or fiscal transparency as public schools led by locally elected trustees. All schools that receive public funds must be subject to the same standards of accountability and financial reporting standards. Furthermore, private schools are not required to comply with federal protections for students with disabilities. Brazosport ISD opposes all efforts to divert public dollars to support private schools with zero accountability. Brazosport ISD does support school choice and innovation within the public school system and opposes any form of taxpayer subsidies to private and charter schools, including vouchers, parent education savings accounts, or any other means to divert public tax dollars to private entities. Brazosport ISD has a long history of successfully utilizing the provisions of the previous Chapter 313 of the tax code to attract large, world-sized scaled investments into our local community. Meeting the purpose and intent of Chapter 313, Brazosport ISD has 17 agreements with the distinction of having the first approved project back in 2002 with Dow. While many of our corporate partners of petrochemical manufacturing firms, recent investments from Freeport LNG have positioned our area to become a major liquefied natural gas export facility. While there are critics that will debate the need for these incentives, our experience is that we are clearly competing with other states and countries for the capital investments associated with these major business expansions. In Brazosport ISD, we believe that collaborative partnerships are vital to strengthening learning experiences for our students. These companies invest more than just for-profit infrastructure in our area. These companies look to us to provide a pipeline of talent for high-wage, high-demand jobs. They become partners and provide opportunities for our students to graduate and enter the workforce. These agreements create jobs, bringing thousands of people to our area during peak construction, which stimulates our local economy. These investments represent over 60% of our total tax base, which does remain fully taxable for INS purposes, and it's how we have successfully completed the 2014 and 2019 bond programs without increasing the tax rate. While there is a tax incentive provided to the company for their investment, it is a short-term cost that has a long-term gain for the state of Texas. Our first agreement, for example, was Dow. They invested $288 million, which was limited for M&O purposes for 8 years to $30 million. In 2013, that investment was back on the tax roll, fully taxable at $166 million. Without this incentive, Dow would have located this facility in another state that has lower or no property taxes at all. Based on our success of utilizing Chapter 313 provisions, Brazosport ISD supports the extension of the expired provisions of Chapter 313 of the tax code to promote economic development in Texas for years to come. Last but not least, the last time TRS retirees received a cost of living adjustment was in 2013. That's 10 years ago. It was a 3% increase, capped at $100 per month, and it only went to TRS retirees who retired prior to September 2004. For those that retired after that date, almost 19 years ago, have never seen an increase to their monthly pension. One of the issues that has prevented the state from providing increases is the state's requirement that that fund be actuarially sound, which is defined by the TRS fund of being within 31 years of paying off the unfunded liabilities. Based on the current contribution rate and the rate of return that they project, the likelihood of an increase would be at least 50 years from now. Absolutely unacceptable. As such, Brazosport ISD supports legislation to increase the state's contribution into TRS and for TRS to provide a meaningful cost of living adjustment for our retired educators. At this time, I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions from the board?
Good.
Audience?
So administration does recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the legislative advocacy priorities regarding education funding, teacher workforce retention and development, assessment and accountability, privatization of education, school safety, and cost of living adjustments for retired teachers as presented.
Do you hear a motion?
We'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Jerry, seconded by Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good information.
Can we get the bullet points
Yes.
on the,
We'll have a one-pager for you.
limit? I get,
Yes.
that'd be good.
Forthcoming.
And we sent that to our,
We will,
yeah,
after,
it's good, it's a
after
good
tonight.
presentation.
I've got an email drafted.
Even your speech, I'd just include the speech too. Bold a few words, maybe. Highlight a few words.
Next item we have on our agenda are reports. Public comments are allowed on each report. Our first report is our bond planning and construction update by Mr. Alfred Renee.
All right.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CV Local, it is my pleasure to present the 2019 Planning and Construction Update for the 2019 bond program. I just scrambled that all over the place. As of February 2023, total POs issued of $210,214,000 and 72.16% completed or in progress. This is an aerial view of the Hopper Field project, and work is moving along very well on that. I've got some closer pictures, but you can see the work that's taking place at the main entrance of the ticket booth for the new entry. We've got several sidewalks that are in place over to the left of the visitor side concession stand. This is the visitor side concession stand that has the new roof on it, and then you can see a little bit closer view of the front entry. And this is the home side concession stand. Doesn't look like much has happened, but we have got the piers in place for the restroom addition on both sides of that. We've had several issues that have held it up a little. We're still on schedule, but we've got to pop up the roof a little bit on the existing building to accommodate the vent hood. And also we've had some soil issues and as well as existing conditions underground that were unknown. This is the sidewalk that you saw last month. Now it has the light
And it's lit?
operational.
It's lit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Alec, so at the far end, in the picture, the sidewalk that is on the opposite side, that would be behind the stands of the visitors, is there anything for that over there?
No, sir.
And the reason I bring it up is because when it rained the other day, and this nice walkway is nice high and dry, the other walkway on the other side was completely underwater.
Right. Yeah, there was no plans to do anything to that sidewalk. This one, of course, as you know, was mainly just to get people
From the parking lot to the
Right.
sure.
And it ends right there, right? Doesn't it?
Yes.
Right, it ends right there at the gate, or at the.
The end of the fence, yeah. Start off right.
Yeah.
Okay, over at Brazosport High School athletic improvements, this is the softball field. They have their first game tomorrow.
All right.
And they are ready.
I drove down that nice road the other day. It was such a pleasure.
Such a good friend.
I didn't have.
Dodging
It was smooth, turned around.
Very nice.
Yes, it was very nice.
We might have to put some speed limit signs in.
Speed bumps or something.
No speed bumps.
Yeah, speed bump.
No speed bump. Okay, over at the new field house, it's moving along very well. Over on the left-hand side, you can see the new roof, going on, and it's moving along on schedule. This is another view, looking from the river towards the building. And over at Brazosport High School CTE, I'm happy to announce that we opened bids on Wednesday in Columbus, and looking forward to that. And so we can come to you next month for a GMP and get started on it. It's been a long time coming on this one. We've gone through a lot of different, designs and redesigns and things of that nature, so it's time to get building now. And you've seen these slides before. This is the new, shop building, and this is the floor plan, with the new addition, in red. And then this is just the, overall plan of the existing building with the renovations to it. And this is the shop building floor plan. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions from the board? Is the concession stand gonna be bigger, or is it just getting bathrooms added to each side?
The concession stand on the home side will still be the same size, it just gets restrooms on each side. And then the visitors, concession stand is much smaller, because initially it was gonna be, turned into the storage building.
Yeah.
But we went back and made it smaller. There won't be cooking or health permit, required, because there's no, vent hoods or the type of, what we're serving is all prepared,
Yeah.
prepared stuff.
What about right at the entrance, the building there, they've removed all the concrete and the fencing? What else, what?
Are you talking about by the existing field house?
No, I'm sorry, not the field house, the
New entrance.
new entrance.
To Hopper.
To
The
Hopper.
Hopper.
The ticket booth.
He had a picture one year, it had like like three arches.
I don't think it's on the agenda.
It's not on
No,
this
it's not
one.
on there.
The far, that one.
I don't think this works.
Does this not work?
Is that one right there, right,
Right in the middle.
right in the...
Yeah,
Are you talking in front of the ticket booth?
No, I just mean,
The one with arches.
what all
plan
happened
look like?
to that ticket booth?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about the rendering that had the arches. Yeah, that's not in this slide, we kind of shortened it up, for time's sake tonight, but, it's brick arches with wrought iron gates,
Okay.
and it's, that'll be on both sides, it'll be very symmetrical, beautiful, actually, a big improvement.
It was in one of the presentations last couple of months.
Yeah.
I can find it, I'll put it in the board update, Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, it does look really good.
Yeah, it's gonna be a major improvement.
Any other comments, questions, audience? All right. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Next item that we have under reports is the 22-23 District Improvement Plan Second Quarter Review. Mr. Red.
In alignment with Board Policy BQ Local and each district goal, it's my pleasure to deliver the report on the second quarter progress made on the 2022-2023 District Improvement Plan. You have a copy of the second quarter formative review in your board book. The District Improvement Plan, required under Chapter 11 of the Texas Education Code, is a comprehensive plan to improve the district in each of the 5 areas covered by our district goals. The 2022-23 plan has a total of 13 performance objectives and 86 strategies to support the district's 5 goals. The board adopted House Bill 3 goals for early childhood literacy and numeracy, along with college, career, military readiness, and those goals are included in the plan as performance objectives under District Goal 1. As a district, while we continue to focus on improving Tier 1 instruction in all subjects, greater focus is placed on math and reading performance, with a special emphasis on early literacy and numeracy. Performance continues to improve in both reading and math as campuses work to improve Tier 1 instruction and to offer accelerated instruction for students who lag behind or who did not pass one or more STAR tests last spring. Health and safety continue to be a high priority area for the district under District Goal 2, along with character education and support for students and families. To support Goal 3, work is continuing this year on improving frontline customer service, and with COVID-19 seemingly behind us now, efforts are being made to increase volunteerism and parent engagement. Completing the work on the technology infrastructure upgrade is a high priority under Goal 4, along with supplementally funding special programs, the overall instructional program, and efforts to close learning gaps. Lastly, implementation of the district professional development plan and supporting the successful launch of the registered apprenticeship program are priorities that address staff recruitment, support, development, and retention. As mentioned earlier, the district improvement plan has a total of 5 goals, 13 performance objectives, and 86 strategies, whose progress is measured in one of 5 ways. Discontinued, meaning that the strategy has been discontinued for this year. No progress, meaning no progress has been made toward the strategy outcome. This is most commonly seen with strategies that are implemented according to a specific time frame. Some progress, meaning that from 5 to 49% progress has been made toward the strategy outcome. Considerable progress, meaning that from 50 to 95% progress has been made toward the strategy outcome, and accomplished, meaning that the strategy outcome was met. Progress for the second quarter was 0% discontinued, 1% no progress, 5% some progress, 52% considerable progress, and 41% accomplished. Of the 22 strategies that support the 5 performance objectives under District Goal 1, 9 were rated as accomplished. Considerable progress was made on 12 of them. No progress was made on 1 that will be started during the third quarter. During the second review period, district coordinators and specialists continued to support early literacy, numeracy, math, and English language arts reading instruction through active monitoring of Tier 1 instructional priorities in the classroom. Elementary school English as a second language teachers learned how to run reports and how to find resources that correlate to the skills that students are struggling with using by using the program Imagine Learning, a program designed to accelerate language and literacy skills for ESL students in grades K through 4. During the second quarter, teachers and administrators used the results from the district CBAs to refine the Tier 1 instructional priorities in both ELAR and math. Work also continued on aligning industry-based certifications with CTE programs and study to ensure that BISD students will continue to earn credit for having achieved certifications when TEA begins implementing the new CCMR requirements next fall. Finally, the Language Acquisition Department followed up with teachers and content specialists during the second quarter to monitor the reading curricula and provide assessment training. There are 22 strategies that support the 2 performance objectives under District Goal 2. During the second quarter, 7 were rated as accomplished, and considerable progress was made on 15 of them. The performance objectives for Goal 2 set targets that ensure the health, safety, social, and emotional needs of students and staff are met. During the second quarter, NIMS training was continued for all staff, and standard response protocols were put in place at every campus. Director of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management, Ty Morrow, continued to provide safety training to substitutes and new teachers and staff. He also provided Stop the Bleed training to several groups across the district. 104 of the 127 threat assessment team members, or 82%, had completed training by the Texas School Safety Center by the end of the second quarter. Additionally, both assistant principals and counselors received training regarding the BISD e-cigarette prevention program. Also during the second quarter, float nurses were added using ESSER funds to increase support to staff and students. These nurses fill the role of substituting for absent nurses and providing additional support to campuses where needed. 2 additional licensed professional counselors were also added so that each campus could have access to a licensed professional to support students who need additional mental health supports. Additionally, referrals to outside counseling providers continued to be provided along with referring students to a new resource, Texas Child Health Access through Telemedicine, also known as TCHAT. Also this quarter, At-Risk Services launched a new program called Ascend. Ascend is an acronym for Acquiring Strength, Character, Employability, and Networking Skills with Determination, and it's a program that supports approximately 80 homeless students with social, emotional, and communication skills, as well as providing them with opportunities to explore post-secondary education opportunities. There are 10 strategies that support the 2 performance objectives under District Goal 3. During the second quarter, 7 were rated as accomplished. Considerable progress was made on 2 of them, and some progress was made on 1 of them. During the second quarter, volunteers began to randomly visit and make phone calls to campuses to audit their customer service. Each visit and call was logged, and the volunteers answered a series of questions related to the visit. The response to those questionnaires will be used as part of the comprehensive needs assessment process this spring to evaluate the effectiveness of the customer service training provided during the first quarter. Results will be used to plan additional training as needed for next year. To date, 18 visits and 7 phone calls were made at various times throughout the day. Results from the campus visits were positive, while phone calls received a mixed response. Random mystery calls and visits will continue through the month of April. Campuses were sent Ready, Set, Volunteer posters promoting the volunteer orientation training video that highlights policy and procedural expectations for all BISD volunteers. This activity supported the strategy to train volunteers in BISD policies and procedures. Additionally, volunteer mentor liaison Sharon Ritchie began including feature brags on volunteers and partners in the bi-monthly brag page. District Goal 4 is really a 2-part goal. The first part states that Brazosport ISD will exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure financial strength, and the second part that the district will provide resources to equip and maintain quality facilities and educational programming. BISD continues to set the standard for the use of technology and supplemental funds to support key district initiatives. There are 19 strategies under the 2 Goal 4 performance objectives. 10 were rated as accomplished. Considerable progress was made on 6 of them, and some progress was made on 3. Work on bringing the command center online continues to progress toward a completion date sometime in April. Work on a mass notification app, Quick Alert, was completed during the second quarter, and campuses are working with the Director of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management on drills using the app. Progress on a 4-year plan to transition from Microsoft Office to Google Suite continued as initial conversations with instructional technology took place. The plan should be completed by the end of the school year. In the area of finance, all supplemental funds have been allocated to departments and campuses to support student learning, and supplementally funded strategies show progress toward meeting their intended outcomes before the end of the school year. There are 13 strategies that support the 3 performance objectives under District Goal 5. 2 were rated as accomplished, and considerable progress was made on 11 of them. The foundation of the registered apprenticeship model is that apprentices progressively increase their skills and competencies throughout the program. Each on-ramp features 8 micro-credentials, or 32 micro-credentials total, featuring on-the-job training and job-embedded coaching. The training structure is designed to upskill new and current talent, to support student development in high-quality teaching skills and experiences, and to prepare apprentices for their year-long residency experience and subsequent career as a high-quality teacher. To date, more than 1,500 hours of training have been provided to 65 apprentices. In December, the Board of Trustees approved the appreciation stipend to all BISD staff to show their support and appreciation for the hard work and dedication they put forth every day toward providing a quality education to all BISD students in environments that are safe and conducive to learning. Also during the second quarter, Brazosport ISD partnered with Vantage Circle to launch an app to support health and wellness. The health and wellness app, Vantage Fit, launched in January to promote social, emotional, nutritional, physical, and financial health. The launch received an overwhelming response participation within the first 24 hours, attaining 25% of BISD's employees enrolling. Strategy 2 under Performance Objective 2 is to provide curriculum documents for K-12 core classes that organize TEKS into units of study and offer guidance for sequencing and pacing. During the first quarter, the documents were provided and were undergoing improvement. During the second quarter, the documents were provided in their final form, and work began on providing additional student activities to these documents. This represents a step forward in designing and developing our own curriculum. This concludes the second quarter progress report of the district improvement plan. Since this is a report, board action is not required, and I'll return in April with the third quarter report. At this time, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions you or the audience may have.
Questions from the board? From the audience? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
Thank you.
Next item we have on our report is a student outcomes update. Mr. Brian Combs.
Good evening. In accordance with board policy, Local and district goal, Brazosport ISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every student will be future ready. It is my pleasure to present a student outcomes report related to college, career, military readiness, and early childhood literacy, numeracy, and the goals. Whoa.
Good presentation.
We got that.
Okay. The remote is rigged, I will attest to that. Okay. We will start by looking at college, career, military readiness.
Yeah.
Then we will review the goals associated with such, changes to the college, career, military readiness criteria as established by the Texas Education Agency, our current data, and next steps. The student outcomes goal for Brazosport ISD's college, career, military ready graduates reads: the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for college, career, and military readiness will increase from 58 to 70% by August 2026. The target for this school year's graduates is 64%. One of the changes that the state has recently made is changing what it takes to make an A in CCMR. At one point it was 60%, however this year they are saying it will be 88%. So let's explore a little bit more about what they have shared. So under the original system, an A was set at 60% of CCMR students graduating was equivalent to an A. Why 60%? Well, the higher education, Texas's Higher Education Strategic Plan for 2015 to 2030 has a goal that by 2030, at least 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree. So in comes the Texas Education Agency and says, well, therefore 60% of CCMR graduates would equate to an A to help achieve this goal. But that's not all. So recently, the Texas Education Agency has said that they want to make that an 88% instead of 60%. So why 88%? The agency has data that indicates only 68% of college-ready students persist beyond 1 year in college. So now they are indicating that in order to hit the higher education goal of 60% by 2030, districts will need to have 88% of students college-ready from high school graduation. A colleague of mine in Wiley ISD put together this analysis of the impact of college career military readiness ratings for districts in the state of Texas. As you can see, this change will shift districts that currently have an A on the left in CCMR to grades as low as a D for the equivalent levels of performance. It's also important to note that this change goes into effect for last year's graduates. So, now that we know this, I want to take a transition to look at where we currently are as it relates to our current goal. This chart allows us to take a look at where this year's seniors were based on data that the Texas Education Agency released earlier this year. Based on the data from the state shown in this chart, with the data from the 2022 school year, our current year seniors were indicated as juniors on this chart. So 29.2% of this year's seniors, or last year's juniors, were college, career, and military ready at the end of 2022. This is 5 percentage points above the state, which is indicated with the khaki line. As we explore our current data, you will see the 3 columns on this chart. The first data column represents the data that the Texas Education Agency currently has on our seniors this year. The second represents the percent of seniors that are college, career, military ready based on the official data sets that we have received and processed within our system. Then the final column represents the most accurate real-time reflection based on the individual tracking at the campus level. You can see that Brazosport High School is currently reported at 68%, which is an increase of over 30% from the beginning of the year. Brazos Woods at 50%, which is an increase of over 20%. And Brazos Success Academy has increased by nearly 16 percentage points. You can see that between the start of this school year and now, our high schools have seen great growth in the percent of college, career, and military-ready seniors. We have grown over 23 percentage points as a district, and only have 11 more percentage points before the end of the year to achieve the goal. This is approximately 142 students away from the goal of 64% of seniors graduating college, career, and military-ready. So what are our next steps as we take a look towards the rest of the semester? We continue to conduct quarterly reviews with each campus to track progress and help provide any needed resources to support from the district level. Campuses are tracking students individually to identify the best avenues for students to achieve college, career, and military readiness. We're seeing that many students are taking advantage of the access for dual credit through free tuition to achieve CCMR. Campuses are also providing on-site TSI testing that allows students to meet college entrance requirements. The Texas College Bridge course is an online self-paced course that's allowed many of our students to be college ready through an interactive and individualized learning system at their own pace with support of a teacher when needed. Our campuses and CTE department are working to identify students that may have previously missed industry certifications based on opportunities that they have, along with certifications that are part of their current coursework. Additionally, after reviewing what other high-performing districts are doing to move the needle as it relates to college, career, military readiness, this readiness is now part of the requirements for senior off periods. We know that the measures for college, career, and military readiness are valuable for students' future. This incentivizes students is working towards these attainable goals. Additionally, the state is making it more difficult for IBCs to count for college, career, military readiness. Saw in Mr. Redden's presentation, about 40% of our students graduate with a IBC. Students will not only need the IBC, but they will also have had to have completed a full program of study rather than just demonstrating success on their certificate. So we are working to better align programs of studies and certifications with a focus on retaining students within the program of study. We do have a few more data sources that will come in before the end of the year. So in addition to our current seniors that are in courses that will result in industry certifications by the end of the year, we also have students that are taking dual credit courses that can lead to college, career, military readiness. And then in July we'll have results from AP exams. In addition, we have students currently completing the Texas College Bridge course as well as the TSI exams. We will now turn our attention to early literacy and numeracy. We will review our current goals along with performance data projections found in our Star Renaissance screeners and our middle of the year curriculum-based assessments, or CBAs. The yearly target for early childhood literacy and numeracy is 53% of students at the meets or above performance level for the 2023 school year. It is important to note that 60% is still an A for accountability here. Additionally, it's important to note that the STAR exam is changing this year for all students at all grade levels, not just third grade. 25% of the test will now include new item types, and the agency will be reevaluating performance levels based on these new exam question types. We'll share more about what we've done related to this as we move forward. The first set of data that we will take a look at is the December STAR Renaissance projections. This tool is primarily used for intervention purposes. However, it does provide a statistical projection of how students might perform the STAR test for the state of Texas. It is important to note that it is not designed to mirror the state's test, but it does cover similar concepts. This slide provides a campus level what-if projections for the state assessment as if it were to have happened in December. You can see the three columns of performance data at approaches, which is the minimum passing threshold, meets, which is where our annual goal of 53% is set, and masters. With the district level performance at 45% for meets currently, we are on the right trajectory for achieving the annual target for early literacy. We'll take a look at numeracy now. This slide shows similar information for math. As a district, we're even closer to the target of 53% for math, with a current projection of 51% of students at the meets or above level if the tests were have been taken in December. The next thing we will take a look at is our middle of the year curriculum-based assessments. The data presented allows us to compare where we were at the beginning of the year and across campuses. These scores are not necessarily useful for projecting STAR outcomes, as the assessment does not test the whole year of learning, but simply a narrow portion of learning. As we take a close look at the third grade reading data, we can see that campuses are relatively close to their beginning of year performance as shown by the bottom row. The bottom row compares basically where a campus was in relationship to the district at the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. Very minimal change. However, we do see some decline at Roberts Elementary, but most of the campuses are relatively close to the district average. In third grade math, we see some substantial differences in the middle and beginning of the year data. We see a large improvement at Ogg and Velasco. Ogg's up 17 percentage points, and Velasco's up 10 percentage points compared to the district average. Whereas we see declines at Austin, Boydell, and Roberts. A review of our curriculum-based assessments show that the ongoing familiarity with the new question types on these curriculum-based assessments seem to play a role in the decline at some campuses. So as we seek to improve student outcomes for this year and future years, we remain focused on rock-solid instruction by increasing the use of Tier 1 instructional priorities for math and reading. Campuses and district support are providing targeted supports to individual students and classrooms. We're increasing the review and support for specific learning standards that were identified as needing improvement. We're ensuring that students are familiar with and repeatedly using new question types, both on classroom assessments and district assessments. We're striving to increase opportunities for writing in all curriculum areas and increasing common language and strategies for writing across the district. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
From the board?
Do we have additional CBA data for other grades, right?
Yes, sir. It was in the most recent board.
Okay, so, okay. When I looked at that, generally, our beginning of the year was better than the middle of the year. Is that a normal trend in
the past, yes, because normally with some of the concepts we cover at the beginning of the year are a little bit easier than some of the concepts that we hit at the middle of the year. So we build in the complexity of the concepts as we get further on in the year. So what we end up seeing is the snapshot that we're taking as CBA that only covers a portion of the year, covering more difficult concepts. So the average tends to go down, which is why it's a poor indication of where we would perform on STAR, because it's not the full scope, it's just a narrow scope.
So back to the STAR end, what was our 2022, our goal was 50%, right?
Correct, the goal was 50% in 2022, yes, sir.
Do you know what it was, what our actual was?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Ron had it in his presentation. We were in the high. We definitely surpassed the goal.
Okay, I can look at that. So, what is our anticipation for the 45, our goal is 53, or 51, 53, I think 51, 53 seems attainable, 45 to 53 seems...
So previously,
difficult.
I looked at these results for the prior year, and we were, I want to say, 44% in the middle of the year projections, and we easily climbed that much for literacy. So,
performed at 58%.
we were at 58% for literacy.
Claimed 58%.
So I would anticipate that we should be able to reach. Now, I think the other key thing to keep in mind is that the state is changing the test again, and they're resetting passing rates based on the new test. So, to be perfectly honest, if it was the same test, I would be pretty confident, but they're changing things again. So we'll know, the results are going to be delayed till very late in the summer, if not August, when we'll actually know student performance levels. So it'll be a while before we know how our students did.
And so the slide on your seniors CCMR ready, the last was the live individual campus tracking, which, seems like a good number, but, the number that we're gonna be judged on, is that gonna be the TEA data?
So the TEA data is delayed. So
Right.
yes, so ultimately, what they are tracking is what should eventually end up in TEA's data set.
Right, but we're saying that we're much better.
Oh, yes, we are much better, yes, sir.
Okay, so will that be reflected in their years behind data?
Yes, so it'll take them, once our kids graduate, it takes them 2 years to process everything.
Right. Okay. In the meantime, do we get dinged?
In the meantime, we are going to be, no, we will not be dinged, but we will be striving to reach that 88% instead of the 60%. So, in the meantime, yes, ultimately, every district will be dinged.
Well, based on that graph, yeah,
Yes,
that's telling.
absolutely, which is, the senior off period portion that I mentioned is going to be, many districts that implement that are at 88, 89%. Because the CCMR is relatively achievable if students are motivated to achieve it. And they're beneficial because it helps with college readiness, getting industry-based certification. They're great things, but for the most part, you have to, if students aren't willing, you kind of have to beg. So with them working towards their off periods for it, they'll be highly motivated to achieve college career military readiness.
I'm done.
Any other audience? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Next item that we have under our reports are board committee reports. Do we have any from our board?
I got one. I just want to congratulate Jesse on a great event. It went really well. I think we probably may have some good numbers, hopefully.
Yeah,
And also,
Tomorrow.
yeah, I wanted to also mention, I see a lot on Twitter and Facebook and all that, all the other things that the foundation does for ice creams and coffees and all those little things that are little but go a long way, I know, on those campuses too. So, appreciate you doing those things too.
All right. Any other? All right, our next regularly scheduled event, of course, this evening we have our budget workshop to begin as soon as we get done here. And then our next regular... Sir?
We have executive session tonight?
We do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna, you guys are gonna get peanut butter sandwiches.
Our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be March the 20th. And then, of course, executive session is next. It can be called for the purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, sections 551.071 through 551.146. Sections 551.071 is consultation with attorney. Section 551.072 for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.074, personnel matters, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, dismissal, or complaint. Section 551.074, superintendent mid-year review. Section 551.082 for the purpose of considering discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel. We shall return shortly. Good. All right, we're returning from executive session. It is 8:56, unless there are any... Oh, wait.
Yeah, wait.
Oh,
We have an action item. 8:56. We have an action item, superintendent contract extension.
I'm making a motion that we extend the superintendent's contract for 1 year.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Reinhardt, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by
Scott
Mr.
said,
Chris?
somebody did.
All right, and just pick one.
That's third.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, thank you, thank you very much.
If things don't work out, Scott,
I told you we were.